We welcome to Sports Talk Mark Bradley, Maysville native, columnist and blogger for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Mark, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
A busy time of the year, college football, pro football, baseball winding down. I guess it's a great time to be in sports.
I guess. I mean, it is busy. I just had a weekend where I did 4 different airports in 3 days and went from Atlanta to Chicago to South Bend to Chicago to Newark to Atlanta over a weekend. But I got paid and the flights were on time. So other than a lack of sleep, I'm in pretty good shape, I guess.
And your first trip to Notre Dame for a football game, how was that?
It was okay. I went too early to the game, which I didn't think was possible. And I got stuck in traffic because I got there before the South Bend police were actually directing traffic. But, I still got there 3.5 hours ahead of time. I just was not terribly pleased at having to wait 25 minutes to make one left turn. But it's part of the job.
You talk about the travel, and that's changed a lot since 9/11. It's just not as easy to get from here to there.
No, it's not. There aren't as many flights leaving after games. It used to be that if you would go to an NFL game on a Sunday, given that we're based in Atlanta, which is a pretty large airport, you could almost always get back in like the central, from the Eastern or Central time zone that night after a 1 o'clock game. But you can't do that anymore because there's, you have to be at the airport 2 hours early, and it's just, Tampa is about the only place you could even try it, and that's because the airport is like 7 minutes from the stadium. But even then, we don't try it very much, simply because you don't want to miss a flight and have to reschedule. But it's it did. I mean that changed a lot of stuff.
I like flying. If you could get to the airport, hop on the plane and take off, but that never seems to happen. If I do get on the plane on time, then the food's not there or something like that.
There's a lot of things that can go wrong when you fly, and sometimes they do, but most of the times you don't. But there's still anxiety, getting to the airport, going through security, just where am I going to park, and then the problem with getting to New York was that there were only two flights going directly from O'Hare to Newark. And you kind of have to go into Newark if you're going to a 1 o'clock Giants game, because it's in New Jersey, and you don't want to go into LaGuardia because it would take forever to get there across town. And so you have to go into Newark, and the only flight, the reasonable flight that would get there, I think got in at 10:22, which is okay. I mean, at 10:22, you figure maybe you'll get lucky, and the traffic won't be terrible yet. But what if it's an hour late, and then you're really sitting in traffic, and you might miss kickoff. But as it happened, I got the flight was on time. I got off, and my driver to MetLife Stadium adhered to no speed limits, and I was in the stadium about 11 o'clock.
I wanted to have you on earlier in the year and didn't get the opportunity, but back in April you were inducted into the U.S. Basketball Writers Association Hall of Fame, and I know that had to be a thrill and a big Final Four weekend. When I heard about it, or they called to tell me, it was. I remember thinking, just try to take this in stride, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I don't think I can take this one in stride. This one was a big deal to me, and I was surprised that it happened, and totally honored that it did. It's the best thing. It's the best thing that's happened to me, and that sort of thing in my career. I've just been. I was giddy over it, and I was honored to have it be in a sport that I kind of feel like that if I really
made my reputation. I don't even know if I have a reputation, but if I did make my reputation, I think I kind of did it as a college basketball writer, coming up in Lexington and then here. But that was terrific. I mean, and I'm still I'm still kind of floating about that one, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, you joke on your blogger bio that you've lost a lot more awards maybe than you've won, but that is a big award.
That's a big one. Yeah, I had to give a speech, and I told the story about how at my first Final Four in 1983 in Albuquerque, I got there and I was just totally overwhelmed to see all these great writers like Bob Ryan and of course Dave Kindred and Dave Anderson in the New York Times and people like that, and I thought, you must be the worst writer here. I was just like, I was like totally intimidated. And then right before the tip of the first game, the first semifinal, which was, people forget this, it was North Carolina State versus Georgia, the guy sitting next to me on the back row of the press row in Albuquerque said, "Georgia, are they from the SEC?" And I said to myself, okay, second worst writer here. And that for some reason that relaxed me. I felt better, and I got through it. And I've been to 20 Final Fours since. And but I remember. But anyway, during my speech, I said, if I'm the worst writer or the second worst writer in the Basketball Hall of Fame, I'll take that and be glad to take it, because that's still a great honor.
You grew up as a Louisville fan here in Maysville, and I got to thinking, I work with some young guys that don't know the world without the internet. Just talk about following Louisville or following the Reds, or we had to go get the newspaper and follow the box scores. Just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, my dad, Dr. Bradley, the dentist in Maysville, would get the Courier-Journal at his office. And after I got out of high school, Maysville High School, I would go down to his office and wait for him to get done, and we would ride home, and I would sit in the back and read the Courier-Journal. And we got the Enquirer, the Cincinnati Enquirer, at home. We got both Maysville papers at home. There were two back then, the Public Ledger and the Daily Independent. And I would often go, when I got really interested in baseball, I would go and buy the Kentucky Post off the newsstand downtown, because they would have the late scores from the West Coast and the boxes. So I kind of grew up reading like 4 or 5 newspapers a day, and I never, at that time, I really didn't have any notion that I was gonna want to be a sports writer. I just like sports, and I subscribed to Sports Illustrated, and this is back in the day when there wasn't ESPN, there wasn't an internet. And what you're saying is true. You did have to kind of make an active effort to follow some sports. You listen to games on the radio, and if you actually got to see, say, the Reds play like one game a week on TV, you consider that a pretty big week. Now, every game's on television. Radio's kind of a thing of the past in most sports, and like I say, you had to kind of make an effort, and you had to kind of be really committed to follow it. And I like sports, and I guess I was committed.
And at the opposite extreme, you had the situation with the Steve Spurrier story this year that instantaneously it's out.
Yeah, that was fun, actually. That was kind of weird, and I was actually at a Braves game that afternoon. It was a Wednesday late in July, and I was at a Braves game, and the Braves had just lost, I think, 3-1 to the Dodgers. This was back when the Braves were not yet losing every game, and I was getting ready to drive home, and John Clay of the Lexington Herald, whom I've worked with many years ago, and we're still friends. Probably a bad thing on his part, but we are still friends. And he sent me an email saying, "Well, what did you do to get Spurrier mad?" And I thought, I don't know what this is about, because I had been at Birmingham or Hoover for the SEC Media Days the week before, and I had written something for our paper about how I thought that Steve Spurrier was probably near the end, that his team at South Carolina wasn't going to be nearly as good as it had been, and I didn't think that he was going to want to keep commit himself to another huge rebuilding effort at age 70. And I hadn't heard anything about it. I mean, I've gotten notes from Coach Spurrier over the years, but I hadn't gotten one about this one. And all of a sudden, by the time I got home, I was getting like texts and phone calls, and people were telling me about this YouTube clip I had to watch, and I thought, well, what is this? And I got home and I watched it, and I thought, I'm still not sure what that was about. But I think what had happened was that the Columbia paper, the State, Josh Kendall of the State, had interviewed me while I was in Hoover, and he just said, tell me what you think of South Carolina. And I gave him like a minute's worth of what I thought about South Carolina, which was pretty much what I just said, that I didn't think they were going to be very good, and I wondered how long he was going to keep coaching. And they ran it in that paper, the State, and Spurrier apparently got it, picked it up out of his driveway or something and opened it up and read that for me, who I would say that I have not been his favorite writer over time. I don't know that he has any, but I'm pretty sure I'm not one of them. And I think that just set him off. And I think there also was a practical element to it. It was one of those big summer recruiting weekends coming up, and a lot of people were asking, how much longer is this guy going to coach? I mean, I asked him that in Birmingham or at Hoover. I said, do you have an exit strategy? How many more years? 5, 10, 20? And he gave a good answer. Didn't really say, but he gave a good answer. And but anyway, the whole thing was, it was like, I was like totally oblivious that this was happening. And within the next 24 hours, I think I'd done 8 different radio and TV shows, and it was actually I thought that was kind of amusing. I didn't find that objectionable at all. I thought it was kind of fun.
Well, I'll tell you, Mark Day, a local chiropractor, met you at the baseball game right before that, he and his son, and then his son heard about you on SportsCenter because of the Spurrier blow-up, and
oh, really?
His son Marcus thinks a lot more of you since that happened.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Now ESPN is such a big deal in our world that if you happen to get your name mentioned or you happen to show up on ESPN, which has happened with me from time to time, not very often. I'm not a big TV guy, but if you do, it's like, oh yeah, that's a big deal, And so I guess I don't know. I mean, I know I heard from a lot of people then. One of my I guess my cousin in Orlando read about it in his paper and friended me on Facebook. So I wasn't even aware he was living in Orlando, but he read about it in the Sentinel down there.
Let's talk about the SEC. Auburn and South Carolina slipping a little bit. Ole Miss beats Alabama for the second straight year. LSU and Georgia look awful good. It's weird because a lot of people, and I have to say I was one of them that thought that Auburn was going to be better than this. I don't know that anybody thought they would be this bad. Even their I don't think Alabama fans would have dreamed that Auburn would look as awful as it has. I saw them play against U of L in the Chick-fil-A game, and I wasn't very impressed with them that day. But at that time I thought Louisville might be pretty good. Well, it turns out neither one of them were very good. And I don't know. That one shocks me because I think that Auburn had the feeling that their quarterback Jeremy Johnson was really the real item. That people who had seen him in practice thought this guy he's everything they say he is, and he's been pretty pedestrian so far. And I think he's thrown 6 interceptions in 3 games, and the Gus Malzahn offense is not going to go anywhere if a quarterback can't play. And the defense, which was Will Muschamp's to improve, apparently they didn't want any part of tackling Leonard Fournette the other night. So that's a real puzzler. I don't know that Alabama's crash. I don't know that this is a crash for Alabama. I don't think I'd go that far. I think that they had a lot of things go wrong the other night, and they still made a game of it. I don't think this is a classic
vintage Alabama team, but I don't think it's one you want to dismiss just yet, because they did beat Wisconsin, which is a pretty good team. So it's not like they hadn't been tested. You turn the ball over 5 times, you're probably not even going to have a chance to win the game. And Alabama did sort of come back and give itself a chance. They're going to have to get better quarterback play. They're going to have to stop turning the ball over. But I think they can be. I still would not be surprised to see Alabama win the West. Georgia looks pretty good, but again, Georgia, the only real team the only real opponent Georgia has played is South Carolina, and South Carolina, I don't know if that they're actually a real opponent this year either. We'll find out a lot about both those teams, Alabama and Georgia. They play in 2 weeks in Athens.
Kentucky fans were disappointed they didn't snap the streak against Florida. Did Kentucky beat Florida when you were at UK?
Yeah, they did. They beat them in 1976, I believe. I think Wes Chandler dropped a touchdown pass. Yeah, they beat them then, and they beat them the next year when I was working at the Cat's Paws in '77. That was the 10-1 year. I don't know that they beat them when I was covering UK. I think they went on a pretty long losing streak against them then. I remember Chris Collinsworth caught a pass that set up a last-second field goal and drove Grant Kersey up the wall because he swore that Collinsworth was out of bounds. That happened in 1980. That was like the 4th game that year that UK had lost either on the last play or in the last minute, including the infamous Tulane game. No, they didn't. I was listening, actually, driving back from South Bend. I was listening via XM radio to Tom Leach, whom I've known for a long time, and Jeff Pecoro, who I've covered when he was at Tate's Creek in high school, believe it or not, calling the game. And I was thinking, maybe this is going to be the night. And then, sure enough, it's not the night. But I think UK is improving incrementally. I think that they've recruited well, which is where it always has to start. And it's just such a difficult place to be in the SEC, but in a division with Georgia and Tennessee and South Carolina and Florida. And I mean, it's just tough. I mean, there aren't a lot of football players coming out of the state of Kentucky, and that's something that every coach since they've had a program has been fighting, and it's really an uphill battle now.
Mark, always good to talk to you, and again, congratulations on the Hall of Fame induction.
Yes, sir, Danny. Thank you again. Always appreciate the time. And how long have we known each other? 40, 50, 70 years?
I think it's under 50, or maybe right at 50. I'm 56, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm older than 56, so yeah.
We'll say 50 and leave it at that. How's that?
Okay, that'd be fine. Right. Thank you again.
Have a good one.
Atlanta Journal-Constitution columnist and blogger Mark Bradley.